Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Shifting Gears. I am your host, Clutch, and tonight is the night that we are going to fully review Diablo 3. We are going to break this down. We're going to go through the story, the gameplay, the lore, the first initial reactions, everything. And so this is your warning, just as I have on the overlay, full-on spoilers, man. We're disclosing everything. We are talking about everything. We're not holding anything back. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, I highly recommend that you mute what is going to happen and check it out after you beat the game, because we're going to break this game down.
But make sure you check out the VOD.
Oh, yeah. Watch the VOD. No, stay. We need the numbers. Stay in.
Oh, yeah.
Stay in here. So, gentlemen, ladies, first off, congratulations. We made it. May 15 came and went. The hype fest that had been happening since 2008 with the announcement and all of the build-up over the BlizzCon since to the announcement of the release date, and now the game finally being out and the 2-week mark. We did it! Congratulations! It actually came out before the world ends in December, so awesome. Which I don't even know if that's really going to happen. Anyways, first off, East Coasters couldn't play the game at midnight, which was kind of a bummer because all the servers went live Pacific time midnight, which meant 3 o'clock in the morning. So, once I got my collector's edition, opened it up, installed the game, looked at some pictures from the soundtrack, but that was it! Didn't look at the art book because I didn't want to be spoiled, and waited till 3 o'clock. I actually laid in my bed and tried to go to sleep, and it didn't work. I was just too hyped for the game. And, excuse me, so, I was talking with friends on Skype, and then 3 a.m. rolled around, it was live, and error 37. And error 3006. I don't think I have used copy and paste that fast, my friend, when trying to put in my password to log in to battle.net. But that is what we received, was this gateway of no's, of errors. But after that stopped, which took about an hour until I could actually play, the first thing that you could do was obviously make your character, and then it was beta all over again. I mean, this was the same section that we had played in beta. So it was, okay, I already know what's happening. I can almost skip through all of this. And then once that part ended, which was about an hour, hour and a half in, then the game actually started to begin for me. So that was my initial reaction was, wow, always on DRM. It sucks. But it was exciting to get past excuse me, that point. I played as a female wizard. Wigan played as a female barbarian. And so our viewpoints of the game are going to stem from those character choices. But first of all, Wigan, what were your initial reactions the day of release?
I mean, other than the copy, paste, and enter. Oh, no, enter. Oh, no. For, actually I ended up, it took like the hour, it's like 4 a.m. I was like, F it, I'm just going to go to sleep until, it opens up. Because I really wasn't, especially knowing that it was, you always have to be online to play it. I knew that there was going to be troubles at launch. It's just how it happens. I looked at it kind of like an MMO release, right? It's always going to be shitty server mess ups. And everything sucks. So I ended up going to sleep for like an hour and getting back on. And I only very briefly played the beta, so it was still kind of fresh for me. And I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. It feels a little bit like Diablo. But, when my friends started waking up, got a bunch of people in a game, there's 4 of us, and we're just running around just wrecking demons, and you've passed the beta part, then it just immediately felt right. Like, it felt awesome. Like, all right, this is that dungeon crawler that I've missed since Diablo 2, So I was just immediately excited about it, and it's just, like, right off the bat, fun co-op game. That's first impression.
Yeah, definitely playing with your friends adds more fun to it. And you, myself, Tumba, and Tumba's brother Dale, we were all ready to go, ready to play. Like, we had just mentally, physically, even emotionally ready to play together, man, and it didn't happen.
Stacks of energy drinks and everything.
Oh, yeah, totally, dude. Like, I had all my snack food and everything ready to go in my fridge, and my roommates knew I was pumped, and I told them, listen, I'm going to be loud tonight, so deal with it. And they're like, yeah, man, no problem, no problem. And it just didn't happen. And I stayed on and played, I think until like Act 2 or halfway to Act 1. And then you guys went to sleep, and then I woke up when you were asleep. So I ended up not playing with anybody, even when a couple people tried to join my game. And they're like, hey, what's up? It's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm kind of in this mode where I want to beat normal on my own. And I almost felt really bad that I had to say it that way until I learned how to turn off quick join. Where they would show up and like, what's up, man? What's up? Like, what's going on? It's like, hey, leave, please. You know, I felt bad, but I came to that point where I'd gotten this far on my own, and I wanted to experience every piece I could of the story. And I actually was going in every corner I could find, in every dungeon I could find in Act 1 and Act 2. But I felt I was running out of time because I had to be at the MLG Spring Arena number 2 on Thursday. And the game came out on Tuesday. So it was getting to a point where if I kept trying to explore every corner, I didn't think I was going to beat the game. So I decided that for Act 3 and Act 4, I wouldn't try to go to every corner. I would just stay kind of on the main path and go all the way through the story. So as a solo player, I felt that it was great. It felt like Diablo 2 once again when I was on my own and killing demons and the different areas that were spawning. And drops and gold and the crafting system was new. So I kept remembering everything that people talked about at BlizzCon, right? And what to expect and what I had remembered from playing the Diablo franchise. And to me, like you said, it fit within Diablo. And back when we first saw screenshots, images of the game, and people like, what? Whoa, 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 this is like unicorns and rainbows, man. This is not what Diablo is supposed to be. It's supposed to be dark, gothic, evil, brooding. And when you get down to Act 1, and there's these torture chambers everywhere, and you can, like, click the torture chamber, blow it up, and you see the body get cut in half, or the Iron Maiden's closing on people, I went, well, this feels like Diablo 1 Butch area, or Diablo 2 almost anywhere. So the gruesomeness was there. I feel that people's initial reaction, because of the graphics being different with Diablo 2 and the sprite system compared to now with the dynamic lighting effects, the dynamic textures, the physics effects are completely different. 10 years difference with the technology. It's not the same style, and that's completely true. It's not. But it's like comparing a black and white movie to a color movie, right? You don't want to change the black and white movie to a color movie because it takes away from that nuance, that appearance, that feel of black and white. Just like you don't want to see a color movie turn to black and white. It's just changes in technology. And I feel that the internet kind of really jumped the gun when they saw those initial screenshots because they were so used to that different 2D style. Any thoughts on that, Wigan, before we get into the full-on story here?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the initial complaining was like anytime you, I guess you could almost say reboot a series because it's been so long between games. Anytime you come out with a new game and they're doing something different, there's going to be people that initially don't like it. And I think a lot of that was just one of those like wait and see. You can't really tell what's going on with the atmosphere of a game from like a single screenshot, you know. And as more screenshots came out, if you kept paying attention, you would see, you know, stuff like bodies hanging from hooks and shit. Like how much more dark do you want from a game, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. How much more dark do you want? I mean, you kill the blacksmith's wife, you know, in the first act. The approach to it, as you said, it's like the term reboot comes up, right? This is not the same team. This is not Blizzard North that worked on the game. Blizzard North made Diablo and Diablo 2, and they were working on Diablo 3, but then their doors closed. And so Chris Metzen talked about this in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, that they had to kind of start from scratch from where they had started with what they were doing with Diablo 3 initially. And then WoW came out, and Chris Metzen was said in the interview as well that Blizzard is still trying to find its feet in a post-World of Warcraft world. And I think that's very true. StarCraft 2 is a huge hit because of the esports around it. If there was no esports scene, I don't know how prevalent StarCraft 2 would be in the West. But it's very, very prevalent because of the community built around it, and especially because of the community that was built around Brood War. The community that was built around Diablo 2 has embraced Diablo 3. And it's great that that's happening. But I don't know what kind of world it would be for Blizzard if they introduced a new IP in a post-World of Warcraft world. You know, that was such a behemoth game for them. But let's focus on the story right now, my friend. I read all the books. And when I mean all the books, I mean every single book that was published with the Blizzard moniker. That was official canon for Diablo 3, except the book that came out right when the game came out called The Order, obviously because it came out the same day the game came out and the game's more important. With that, I felt that since I read all the books and I knew the lore backwards and forwards, I had a larger benefit from the story and from reading all the tomes and all the lore in the game compared to other people that had not. Wawa SC had asked me on Twitter what a Nephilim was, and I had to explain that. Seeing the kind of climax of the eternal conflict, something that has started since like time began, coming to that point where Diablo's like, yo dude, I had this plan for like 20 years, and now I'm officially going to take over heaven, was cool to see that, because I had read about all of the conflicts before and what had happened before and how they had used or were trying to use Sanctuary to conquer heaven and how Diablo actually accomplished that. And so it was cool to see that. It was cool to see the angels, and especially after having read so much about them, reading about their initial interaction with Sanctuary and Tyrael's vote to keep it alive, to keep humans alive, how he talks about that in the game, and to know the different angels, to know their background and their different aspects, and also to know what it was to be a Nephilim, and that there was this whole history of the human race where they were very powerful, and actually the thing that scared both the angels and the demons was that they were turning out to be more powerful than the angels and demons. Conceptually, this is a really neat idea. The offspring of renegade angels and demons being the mortals, and the mortals actually being more powerful than the quote-unquote gods of mythos, right? So I find that cool. But this gets into a challenge big time of the delivery of such cool concepts. And guys, this was like a really awesome story that was incubated and cradled in Chris Metzen's mind. He's like, yo man, I have something really cool that we could do with this franchise, and then it was delivered on the worst plate of delivery you could find in a restaurant. Man, it was 13-year-old kids after watching, I don't know, cartoons write this dialogue? What the hell, man? It was so cliche. So we're going to first get into the challenge, and as much as I hear people complaining, and I know I'm talking a lot, I'm going to get Wigan in here in a sec, but as much as I hear people complain, and I complain, Blizzard is not a company full of people that don't know what they're doing, all right? If they didn't, then they wouldn't be the company that they are. However, there are certain challenges that are in their games that I feel are not properly approached or tackled. And the first challenge when it comes to telling a story in any kind of game is when you have a customizable main character, all right? Now let's look at Max Payne 3, a game that came out the same day as Diablo 3. You have one main character. You don't change his class. You don't change his gender. It is Max Payne with one voice actor, right? In Diablo 3, you have multiple classes, 5 classes with a different gender each. So the gender variances are going to really change the story of that class, but you have to get a different voice actor, obviously. So within that, having a customizable character, your main story can suffer because that strength, that link that connects the audience, you can't tell the best narrative that way. But the way you tell the narrative is with the characters around you, with Tyrael, with Leia, with Cain. And at first it seemed they were doing that like, oh, dude, Tyrael, oh my gosh, he's immortal now. This is, what? How did this happen? And then Cain dies. You're like, wow, the stakes have been raised in Act 1. What's going to happen in Act 2? Belial, he's like this dude that has been just pumped up at every BlizzCon. He is a master deceiver. His plans are so intricate and so crazy and so cool. This is going to be like Memento on us. And it was the lamest thing that you could think of. So with that, Blizzard, I recognize the challenges in storytelling when it comes to that. I recognize that, and I applaud the effort taken when you added those small little cinematics with the voiceovers of the different classes saying, like, I just defeated this enemy, and now I will get revenge on Kane's death. It was cool. It felt a little bit more invested in those characters. But everything else just falls flat. And there's a way better way to do it, I feel. And initially, that's my reaction to the story. We're gonna break this down tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end of this episode, we're gonna take your calls and get your opinions on it. But first off, Wigan, I'm gonna give you the floor, man.
Well, God, honestly, like I said when I was playing that game with all my friends, those first couple days, it was kind of like when we watch Star Wars and we get to the first 3 episodes, and we love it because it's Star Wars, just like we love it because it's Diablo, but we just make fun of it the whole fucking time. Like it. Oh my God.
Are you an angel? Sorry.
There's definitely a no. I'm not saying. I'm saying about this. There's definitely a challenge, like you said, to telling a story when you have in any role-playing game, right? If there's role-playing, you're going to have a hard time telling a very compelling story. That's why Max Payne, it's kind of well, it's not easy, but it's easier to tell a compelling story because there's no RP in the G, right? It's just a game, and you have,
and you have one character that you can follow, you can watch, you can see change, you can see a climax to what's happening, you can see his struggles that he's overcoming. That's solid in the script, right? It's how you have a solid story. That's how you write a movie, and that should be the same way as how you write a video game. But continue.
And they got around it in a good way in Diablo 2, in that they made this cool universe, and it was very atmospheric, but they didn't give you a lot of details about what was going on. You were following the story, like literally following the guy, the Dark Wanderer, and it was a mystery.
And Marius.
Yeah, and you were figuring out what was going on along. In Diablo 3, you know exactly what the fuck is going on the whole time, because even if you don't, the bad guys tell it to you like it's a Disney movie, right? like just right off the bat, like you have to find the pieces of the broken sword, and Magnus like, well, you got this one, but I hope you don't look for the next one at this exact location.
The goat man.
It was just so disappointing because they have a good atmosphere, and there's a lot of really compelling story in the game. The followers, they have really cool backstories. A lot of the side events and side quests, like the blacksmith's wife and things, they're very compelling and interesting. But then the main story is just so fucking bad. Like, come on, people on the BattleNet forums wrote better scripts. Like, there's a thread. I think it was the most popular thread for a week already. It's literally just a better script for the boss fights and things like that. It's so disappointing. I feel like they really missed an opportunity there to tell a really interesting story in a universe that a lot of people love,
Especially since it was so built up. But we're going to talk about BlizzCon and some errors I think that Blizzard made. But first off, the approach to Tyrael, right? Tyrael was never considered a main character in Diablo 2. He was that cool, who is this guy? Oh my, what? There's angels! And then he tore that cinematic when he's against Baal, and Marius takes the Soul Stone out of Tal Rasha, and Tyrael grabs him and stops time and says, "You fool, you have no idea the things you have set in motion this day. You must take the Soul Stone to the Hellforge. You must find the courage to enter that gate, Marius. Now take the stone and run." The way he delivers that is so memorable, man. And it's the way that Tyrael says those words. That's not typical human speech that we're used to 13 years old, man. And when we're playing that game, we realize, who is this guy? And it adds this whole mysticism to him, right? And now in Diablo 3, when that mysticism is taken away, which is okay, which is cool, that's kind of what the audience wants. We want to see, who is this Tyrael guy? He becomes the main character, but not in a main character way. During the gameplay, he's just tucked away in his camp like, oh yes, the eternal conflict happened, and you're going to go fight demons. So I'm going to sit here and polish my sword. It's like, you're not
even look at the climactic moments of the game. Tyrael's like, oh, I'm too butthurt to help, guys. I'm watching hell get wrecked. Yeah. Or heaven get wrecked. Oh, I'm going to go be just depressed over here. Yeah. Go do all my work for me.
I feel that what happened in Act 1, besides Magda and the sword, I feel that was good. That was a good start to what was happening. In relation to everything else that happened in the game, right? It should build from there, not like, well, that was the best part, and then it goes downhill. And the clichéness of the writing is like, it's mostly bad, period, man. Leia had some good dialogue. Tyrael had some cool dialogue, especially when he's talking to Imperius. And he's like, dude, I am justice itself. And if you're going to sit back here and not do anything, then I'm out. And he rips off his wings and goes, right? A little bit overdramatic, but it still was really cool. Imperius it's like, you can guess what he's going to say. My old enemy, reveal yourself. No, just fight the woman now, man. Why have him turn into a big spiky monster? It just didn't make any sense. All right, so it's really cliche what they say, okay? And this comes down to storytelling of show, don't tell. You don't have to have a character robotically say, I'm going to do this, and then do it. That's the downfall of Dragon Ball Z, right? They would talk for 15 episodes and then finally fight. So that was bad. And this hides behind that obstacle of not having a true main character, right? But you can work around that. There's totally ways to work around that. Like you said, the boss is revealing their plans. Magda, like
she didn't even like fit in anything.
No,
like, what the fuck
she
is
was
going on there?
No, I liked the little cool things on her, the little moth monsters on her shoulders. I thought that was a nice little touch, but
it wasn't like thematically consistent with anything, right?
Well, they dropped the ball big time with her because her and Adria used to work together in the Coven. And then Adria took off. And it's hinted at, but it could have been so much bigger with her involvement. Especially if she came in and was like, if she worked for Belial and the whole Lord of Lies, if she's like, you should trust me, Adria's evil, and he was like, no, I'm not evil. I mean, that could have been an interesting story if you thought Magda was trying to help you the whole time, right? But no, she's just straight up bad. Now, this moment, I will admit, I got teary-eyed when Kane died, okay? And a lot of people thought that he should have had a bigger role when he died. Like, there should have been a cinematic when he died. But to me, it came to this moment that Kane knew what was happening. He knew that Tyrael had fallen. He knew it because justice will fall upon the world of men, and all these things were happening. And when that comet fell, like, he knew that was Tyrael, and he knew this is going to be our hope. And it's a dude, right? It's just some guy he can't remember. And then he knows about the sword, and he's like, okay, we have to find the pieces to the sword, Eldruine, because that will reveal that I'm right. That all these things I've been working 20-plus years for, all this crap I've gone through, is true. And that we can ultimately overcome evil. And his last thing he does when he dies is he puts that sword together. And he does it in front of Leia, and it's more of Leia will be protected by Tyrael, and she is now like the last hope for humanity. Like, she must carry on the work. And he passes away. And so for me, it was kind of a big thing, right? And he's old. Like, there wasn't going to be some magical spell he was going to whip out to protect himself. He was just an old dude, somehow survived 3 days in the bottom of a crater from a meteor, from a comet. But I felt something for that man because he has carried us through all the games, right? And I did not expect Blizzard whatsoever to kill off Deckard Cain in the first act. So I took a step back from that and went, wow. And that cinematic was pretty good, man, with Tyrael fallen and Leia's crying, and she accuses him of not knowing what sacrifice is about, and he shows her what he gave up, that he believed in Cain and Cain's cause. He was the one that helped Cain in the past. And so then Leia accepts that, accepts his work, doesn't burn the book, and continues it. And what hurts later on is that Leia's Diablo the whole time! It's Diablo the whole time! The whole time! So that to me was like, that was the biggest stake in the whole story. Was right there in Act 1, and the rest is just downhill. So
See, I thought it was downhill from the start, man. I didn't like that entire scene was terrible. Like, the cinematic was great. You know, Tyrael showing what he sacrificed gives you a lot of interesting backstory on the characters, things like that. You know, really sets up their motivations. But like, I didn't feel anything when Kane died, even though he's like my favorite character, because they did such a shitty job of setting it up in the story. Like, imagine if you hadn't played Diablo 2, you had no idea who Deckard Cain was. You wouldn't give a shit that he died, because he's just some random old guy you just found for like 10 seconds, and then he gets killed like without even a cutscene off on the side, like for no reason, basically.
I'm not saying it could have been better. It could have been a lot better, but I still was emotionally moved from what they gave me.
I thought it was just so unnecessary, right? Like, you could have done everything that you did without Kane dying. The whole reason he dies, he doesn't want to put the sword together that he's going to put together anyway. Like, Leah doesn't believe him, even though, like, in Leah's lifetime, there were demons attacking shit all the time, basically. Or I don't know how old she's supposed to be.
She's 20.
But in living memory, Diablo's already rampaged through the world once. Like, and she doesn't believe him? Like, what? It didn't make any sense, and I thought it was
Scumbag Leia doesn't believe all the scars that are on Kane from, like, this is when I was whipped in a frickin' cage in Diablo 2 for 6 days.
And they even did the same thing at the end. Like, one of the NPC conversations is the King of Westmarch refusing to send help to the...
Yeah.
It's like, you know these are real things. It happened before. It's happened multiple times before.
I know some
Why
people,
would you just not believe that there's demons now?
Some
like,
people prefer that if they don't believe, it won't give them power. If they don't believe, then it won't exist. But hey, guess what? They die usually.
I just thought the whole thing was like silly and contrived. It's like, oh, we're gonna kill this character everyone likes just to like add some emotional impact. But like, just imagine if you hadn't played Diablo 2. There would have been no emotional impact. You were like, oh, that sucks. Bad guy killed somebody.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I can understand that train of thought. But for me, since I was so invested, especially from reading the Book of Cain, where the author of that book really wrote a very nice letter from Cain to Leia of how he regretted that she couldn't have a normal life, but he tried to give her the best life he could by protecting her and trying to show her these things and to understand them. You know, so I come from that background, that I had that more investment because of the lore. But
well, the way I look at it, when you make a game, you have to be able to make the game stand alone.
Exactly.
Right? Like, not everyone bought that collector's edition. You know?
Exactly.
And I feel like it didn't stand alone at all, and it was just very contrived and unnecessary to put that in there.
Well, especially after 12 years, it should stand on something. Besides the success of 12 years ago by a company that made it that doesn't even... The team's not even there anymore. And the voice actors were great, I'll have to say. Jennifer Hale as Leia. First of all, I didn't know that was Jennifer Hale, and I'm usually pretty good at pinpointing voice actors. I thought she did a great job as Leia. And Jennifer Hale has played some characters that I have fallen in love with. Bastilla in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Leia was like, this chick, she looks pretty cool. So I was impressed by her voice acting. James Hong shows up as Covetous Shen. No idea he was going to be in that. If you don't know who that is, he plays Poe's dad in Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2, Mr. Ping. He's in a variety of different movies. He's a very famous Asian actor, an older gentleman. Claudia Black, who is a very sexy, sultry voice, and is in many BioWare games, and was also in Gears of War 3. She was in it as the Mistress of Lust, which was a crappy character.
Was that the spider lady?
Yeah, there's no lust whatsoever in that lady. They kept that character because of the costume that one of the fans wore from seeing a Mistress of Pain concept art. And they were going to cut the Mistress of Pain, but they saw it like, let's make her the Maiden of Lust. Like, no, guys, Maiden of Lust should be sexy. And that spider chick, besides having an amazing voice, was not sexy.
That's why I like kind of harp on them being thematically consistent, right? Like, bosses in Diablo 2 made sense for what you were fighting on the way there. Like, you went through the maggot lair, and then you fought a boss that was kind of like a maggot. And this, you're like, oh, I'm going to go through these towers and kill these sin hearts. Why is there a spider lady here? Like, what the fuck? Like, or, oh, we're killing, like, moon clans and random shit in Act 1, and then there's Moth Lady as a boss. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like kind of a weird thing to harp on, but it bothered me a little bit. It just didn't feel like they fit in with the rest of the game.
They forced that in because of the costume, so that's where where it came from. I just thought that if you're going to keep it in there, why not make it to the Spider Queen that you fight in Act 1?
Sure.
Why not? And then the Mistress of Lust should have been like a succubus or something. That was like a mixture of Ondariel and the succubi.
Yeah, why is the Spider Lady just make succubuses? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Metzen. Why? Moving on. The most memorable characters in this game, Wigan, were the followers, man, especially the Scoundrel. I thought Covetous Shen was a very memorable character, very cool. The Blacksmith he's a little bit generic, but he was a cool guy. But the followers had the best conversations, even though the Templar was a little cheesy, but the Will of a Templar, you know. But even his trippy kind of mind thing going on of, wait a second, Jandar left because this happened. Oh my gosh, I was a promising soldier and they wiped my memory. The Templar's bad. So that kind of story
would have been a better story than like the entirety of like Act 2.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Which we're gonna get to, ladies and gentlemen. And if I had pitchforks for Belial, I would just rain him down on him, man. So with the voice actors of the followers and the interactions you can have with the followers, it almost felt like a Mass Effect kind of feel, man. I was like, do I get to go on a quest with these followers? Do I get to go to Kingsport and help the Scoundrel's brother, or help Irena with whatever she needs help with, or the Templar with his troubles? And we didn't get to do that, but it left that open. And we'll get back to that later. Now, this is the worst line in the entire game, in my opinion. When Diablo says, I am Legion. No one should ever say this ever again. Ever. The last character to use this title was Legion from Mass Effect, and therefore it can never be used again, even though it is a biblical reference, alright? It is a biblical reference because this dude was possessed by multiple demons, and they asked which ones, and they said, we are Legion, which meant we are many, okay?
But doesn't that fit perfectly for that scenario, though? Because I'm going to disagree with you on this.
Okay,
I think
it
that was
fits,
perfectly fine.
But it's been used so many times, Wigan. So many times. It's not creative. It's not creative.
But, I mean, it's being used in the context. That's like getting mad because somebody, like, translated a Bible and said it. Like, that's exactly the context you're supposed to use.
It's lazy writing. It's lazy writing. Of all the things, the biggest boss battle you have waited for 12 years for, and he says the same thing that they say in Mass Effect when trying to come up with a name for the Geth guy? Come on, man! Better writing, Blizzard. Better writing. Anyways, I am Legion, no thank you to that. That's okay, that's fine. You want to disagree with me? That's cool. That's just everybody's...
No, I mean, they definitely could have been more clever with it. I just, of all things, that doesn't bother me that much. Like, it's definitely lazy.
I like getting... I know. I wanted to get worked up on that to break it up. You were like, Clutch has emotion. He can yell. Yeah, I can yell. All right, let's...
League of Legends.
Yeah, when Wigan feeds, you'll hear me yell. Okay, guys, let's move on to Belial. And this is Act 2. And this is the fault of building up something that didn't deliver. When they describe Belial, who's a character we haven't seen at all, we've only heard about, even from Diablo 1 in the manual, they talked about the seven evils. He's a Lord of Lies, he's a grand schemer, and he has just intricate plans upon plans upon plans upon deceptions upon deceptions upon deceptions, right? That's how they describe him, that's how they build him up. And the only plan I can find out in the game is that he sends the Iron Wolves out into the desert to die, basically, and when they return, it's the Imperial Guard that now has taken over the city, when in reality the Imperial Guard are his camouflaged lizard people. Mm-hmm. And he's the kid. And that's it, man. That's his grand scheme. And he shows up in the sewers and, like, oh, I've figured out who Belial is, and I'll tell you later. It's like, you can tell me now. It's like, it might be too close, but I'm figuring it out. First of all, kid, how did you appear in the sewers out of nowhere in a spectral form, you know? And then it gets to the end of Act 2, and your character says, oh, yes, Belial, just says his name straight out, and Belial's like, oh, you're very clever, and he reveals himself, right? So I didn't feel there was any cool subplot. There was no subtle approaches, no highlight to his power. You just fight Magda, and then you fight him. And now the fight was cool. I mean, at first I thought, wow, this is really easy. And then he says, let me show you what a true Lord of Hell looks like, and you fight him in that crazy green explosion place, and he's huge. And that was cool. That was a cool change, but that's it. So I thought it was such a joke in Act 2 to think he was this master deceiver. I thought he was a very weak character, and they dropped the ball on him. Your thoughts, Wigan?
The Lord of Lies was a shitty liar, and the Grand Strategist of Hell was a bad strategist. Like, doesn't make any fucking sense. There's I mentioned it earlier. There's a really good thread that's very popular on the BattleNet forums, and I'll link it in the chat. Of some guy was like, well, I didn't like this, so I rewrote it, and it's just way better than the actual game. Like, how does some random guy rewrite the story, just small changes, and it's like so much more compelling and interesting than what they did. Like, if you build something up as like this great liar, he's this great deceiver, and then he isn't, then it's going to be disappointing. And it's just I can't. I was just so disappointed in that in general. Like, it was a cool. Like you said, he transforms in the explosion. You fight in this really awesome boss. That was really cool. That was like my Diablo. Oh shit, just got real moment.
Yeah.
You know? But I just I don't understand where they were going with that. I mean, in I guess Belial's defense, it'd be really hard to be very deceitful when your underling Magda is just telling everyone what you're doing. But like, even just the idea of, oh, he's just the kid. Well, like, no shit, he's the kid. He's teleporting around with you, telling you what to do. Like, of course, that's not a normal kid, you know. Like, I would suggest to everybody read that thread. Like, literally, that would have been 1,000 times better of a story than what actually happened in Act 2.
Now, I actually read that story. That guy, what he did right was impressive. But was it where you actually killed a kid, and it turns out he was just a kid?
Yeah, you get tricked into thinking that it's Belial, but it's not, and Belial escapes.
The thing about story writing, man, is if you have such a traumatic incident like that, you can't get over it as a viewer. You just can't. You will continue to think about it. If you ever saw In Bruges, that's what the whole movie's about, is him trying to get over accidentally killing that kid. And he doesn't get over it. He does. I mean, he goes through some crazy stuff, and he's a little bit better later on, but he doesn't overcome that obstacle. And that's fine, though. You can make that a big part of it. You can give that as motivation for wanting to kill Belial or something like that. Or you can have a follower or another side character end up doing it. Like, have Tyrael do it. And then suddenly you have this very compelling story with Tyrael, other than, oh, I lost my memory. Oh, I got it back. I'm going to wait here for you to do everything. Like, yeah.
Well, you can just do so much more. You could do so much more than have, like, a Disney character boss explain what's going on, and then go out and just like have everything just given to you, right? Like, especially if you're fighting someone supposed to be a liar, you're supposed to be deceitful. You can't have everything just given to you as the viewer. Then, like you said earlier, show don't tell.
Exactly.
You know? And they just like completely forgot that for that entire act.
I didn't know what they were trying to do with that, especially at BlizzCon when they're talking about this guy he is so good, you will not believe what he has done to trick you. I didn't believe anything that was going on, man, until you told me he was a kid. I was like, oh, it's not the kid. It's the kid. It's the kid the whole time? That sucked. Let's get into Asmodon, because I thought he was a stronger character, especially with his cinematic, which was good. Now, he's the Lord of Sin. He's fat, he's got a thing for gold and pierced nipples, and his mouth is shaped like a vagina. So his character artistry, his design makes sense. The greatest strategist? No. He tells you everything he's doing. He tells Diablo/Leia, now my forces are moving from Mount Area to... and then Leia knows what's happening. And Diablo knows what's happening. So, don't tell your enemy what you're doing.
Especially if he's running around killing your shit like hundreds out of a time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, the Black Soulstone cinematic is so much deeper when you watch it slowly or break down the scenes. One, the different spirit things you see sitting on the thrones, those are the different evils, and one of them's on Dariel because she has breasts. And that's, you actually get to see that more in the character, or in the design in the art book. So I thought that was cool that it was highlighting all the different evils there, and there's going to be one prime evil with that central red throne. There's a lot of imagery in there, but it's not fully discussed or disclosed or given proper screen time to even fully appreciate it, man. But Asmodon is not talking to Leia. He's talking to Diablo. And I didn't pick that up at first, obviously, because I wouldn't have been excited about it when I realized that. But his dialogue, one by one our brethren fell into your trap. At first you think, oh, it's just Leia's doing a good job taking out the prime evils, but no, he's talking about Diablo and Diablo's grand scheme of to make them all a prime evil. I thought that was cool, but after the fact. And there's only a little bit of after the fact stuff you can do when the story is so intricate and awesome at the end that you can notice things again, like Memento, I bring up. That just, it's not there the second time around. It's just so predictable. But that was neat. Asmodon and Belial were able to cast out the prime evils along with the other lesser evils. These guys were pushovers, man. They just, the Diablo 2 bosses were so menacing and scary, and they didn't have these like big cinematic entrances and would like, you have fallen into my trap. That didn't happen in Diablo 2. You just walked into the room and there they were, and I was like, oh gosh, Mephisto's in there, man. Okay, I got this. And you go in and you fight. You know, that's how it felt to me at 13, 14 years old, but it didn't seem the same way here. I mean, a little bit of challenge to try to understand how to beat them, but after that, it was just super easy. So, any more thoughts on Belial and Asmodon before we shift gears over into Cain and Tyrael?
No, I got nothing. I ranted.
Okay.
Everything I could think of on that.
Okay. Now, guys, we still bought the game. We still play the game. We're giving it just a completely fair review here. And like I said, we're talking about everything in the game. Yeah. And we're taking calls at the end of the episode. So don't think that we're on this like tirade of trying to destroy everything that is Diablo. No, I love the Diablo
franchise. We're both still playing it.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get
I want Blizzard to make the best games, and I need to point out all the faults so that they can address them in the future, right? And even as me as a storyteller, as an actor, if I want to write a video game or a script or a story or a pilot episode or anything like that, I can't use cliche writing because guess what? That stuff doesn't get money, okay? So learning from what doesn't work in telling a story is crucial to finding success in what does. And that's the main reason why I'm breaking this down. Plus, I love the Diablo lore. Conceptually, I find it one of the coolest stories when it comes to that gothic fantasy realm, especially that mortals can be more powerful than angels and demons. Just the delivery of this conceptual story was not very good at all. Moving on into Cain. I already talked about his emotional response and his belief that Tyrael was the stranger, and the last thing that he did was put the sword together, and that Leia would be safe. So let's move into Tyrael here, man. This is a new thing, okay? Angels can become mortals. This is nowhere in the lore. I don't know if Tyrael knew this was possible, but he just straight up gave up being an angel and became immortal. But he's not even that much of a mortal because he survived crashing into a world and is ripped. And I mean, his sword definitely gives him powers, but I found it cool that he was willing to sacrifice that, but it was a little, it was new, it was such new territory in the mythos that it seemed that it needed some further explanation, but I don't even know if that's credible. I mean, that's just me. They could just be like, hey, it happened, move on. It's a possibility. And his journey was completely underplayed. All right, his fall at the beginning was great. You think this game's gonna be about Tyrael, man, the coolest character from Diablo 2.
Right, and you'd think he'd actually be cool in the game instead of being Marty Sue, the guy you have to save that sits in your camp.
That sits in your camp. So the journey itself, it was just discussion and conversation with him, and it completely subdues his role. right? He tells you this must happen. You must stop Belial. Why aren't you helping me, man? You left heaven to help me. Why are you just sitting in the camp? Unless he's off doing some side missions. That would be cool if you got to play as Tyrael for like a side mission. That would have been kind of fun. A little bit different than Diablo realm. But anyways. So, along his journey, he's subdued, right? Which means the part where he's in total despair of heaven being annihilated is not that big of a deal, because his whole journey is underplayed. And then at the very end, he doesn't fight Diablo with you, so you can just have this one-on-one showdown? Where does he fit, Blizzard? Where does he fit? And then he becomes the aspect of wisdom in the end. Well, he sure got to watch a lot of stuff going down. I hope he learned a lot.
Yeah,
but
he wasn't wise during the story.
Yeah, I felt that to have such a pivotal moment happen at the beginning of the game, a beautiful cinematic that I love to watch to this day, into fizzling into nothingness was... Come on, man. Have a story arc with this guy. He's so cool. We've waited for so long. So I felt they dropped... Now, it wasn't as bad as other things, but I felt they dropped the ball a bit with him.
Like, why not have a little bit more Cain in the story, and then let Cain come back as the aspect of wisdom or whatever, or something like that. Just it doesn't fit. Like the whole time I was playing the game, I wanted Tyrael to be a badass. That's why he was so cool in Diablo 2. You get to like kill Duriel, and then you see it's a cinematic of Tyrael just being this super badass with like Tal Rasha. He's got his wings and the sword he throws, or the end with the world stone. Like, you want Tyrael to be a badass that whole time, and then it, like you said, it just fizzles. Like, I guess they're saving something for expansions. That's the only thing I can think of with that, because it didn't. It didn't feel like a great closure, right? It was like, well, now I can go on to the next difficulty.
Yeah,
that's what the end of the story felt like.
Yeah, it was, you have unlocked Nightmare. That's the end of the story.
Cool.
Leia. I will have to say, even though this was so predictable because Blizzard revealed too much, I found her to be tragic. Very tragic. Even though we knew Diablo was going to take a female form, the betrayal of Adria and the loss of Leia was brutal, man. They didn't hold anything back there, in my opinion. It just was, Adria, guess what, chumps? I've been working for Diablo the whole time, and I had this daughter, and now his plan comes to fruition, and you guys are screwed. See you in heaven, where she doesn't even go to heaven, she takes off. And that's it, and Leia's done. She's dead. Could we see it coming during the game? A little bit. I didn't want to believe that it was going to happen, I think, consciously. And when it did happen, I was like, dang it, man. I liked Leia. She fought with you. She fought more than Tyrael did. She had her bow and was wrecking face and learning stuff and took on the role of Cain, even though she was such a doubter for such a long time. I still felt it was tragic for her, even though it was totally predictable. And the voice actress, Jennifer Hale, did a great job. I could feel Leia's innocence and also her strength in trying to do what was right, and in the end, just being the vessel for Diablo himself, which was crazy. Your thoughts on her, Wigan, before we moved into Diablo?
I mean, I agree with with what you said. I just had a hard time feeling any emotional connection to any of the characters, really. I felt like the presentation just wasn't there. Like, when we all beat the game together, my buddy Bubba Bluefist goes, wow, that really sucks for Leia. Like, no one even cares that she died. Like, as far as the character, I was like, yeah, I guess I don't really either. Like, all right. Like, it just wasn't that interesting. I mean, she's a cool character, and Jennifer Hale did a great job, and the voice acting throughout the whole game was awesome. But it's like, all right.
I thought
that person died on.
that scene, that cinematic when she shows up, and I said this earlier in tonight's episode, but Imperius shows up and is like, my old enemy. Why don't you reveal your true form? No, Imperius, just chop her head off. Just kill her. Why have her transform into this big spiky monster? The cinematic was cool to see the transformation. I thought the animators did a great job of that moment where Imperius is just casting his fire at her and she throws up her hand and she has those yellow eyes. I thought that was really cool. And then changes into Diablo and Rex's face and breaks his weapon, which is a big deal, man, except those weapons are super powerful. It almost kind of defines who they are as angels. And it just goes, nope, and breaks it and then pierces them and destroys the gates. Like, this is what the Primevals have been wanting to do for so long, to break down those gates. So it was a big moment from me reading all the books and reading all the lore. And when he says, you know, the only thing that you'll hear is my laughter, I thought, I was like, man, that's pretty big talk coming from Diablo. It's not bad, right? It's not bad. Kudos. Okay, not bad. A little bit creative. But then after that, Diablo's like, you can't stop me, Nephilim. You can't stop my hell rifts, which are located at these positions in heaven. It just goes into classic, keep telling the bad guys everything. So now this is, again, another point where the story itself conceptually is cool, just the delivery is crap. Diablo's whole plan was to unite all 7 of the Primevals, all 7 heads of the dragon Tathamet, which is this old ancient war they talk about of Anu versus the dragon, and actually they think that Anu, his spine, is the Crystal Arch, and that's what spawns the demons, where Tathamet and the 7 heads is where the Primevals come from, right? And Tyrael talks about how the weakness of the Burning Hells is that they constantly bicker back and forth, and there's always infighting. But what Diablo did, all of this planning he did, was to unite all of the Primevals, and he would control them, and then he would take over heaven. And he did it, man. He did it. His plan worked. So conceptually, this is a deep story, right? If evil works together, imagine what it can do. It can trump heaven. It can take over heaven. That's a scary thought in this mythos. And the only thing that can save them is the Nephilim, which is what the angels and demons were scared of, and has actually been the Burning Hell's been trying to use to tip the tide of the war, which Diablo did. He did. The whole reason why he got kicked out of Hell is because he was focusing too much on Sanctuary, right? Him and his 2 brothers. Well, his plan worked. He was able to get into Prince Albrecht's body and then Aiden's body. Aiden impregnated Adria, so he had this like vessel that was a human person that wasn't a soul stone. I don't know if he had worked with Cool to make the Black Soul Stone, if he had tricked him to do it or influenced him to do it, but he had just all the pieces he needed to execute his plan, and that's what we saw in Diablo 3. So conceptually it was cool, but just you know, it was delivered too shallow and too quickly. It should have had a bigger feeling to it, I guess. But, and we're going to go into my next point here of what good writing is. But any thoughts on Diablo himself when he finally made his revelation and his like whole overarching plan there?
Not really.
Not
man.
really? Okay.
I was just like, give me the next boss, because I don't care about the story anymore at that point. Like, after Act 1, I was just like, all right, you know, keep throwing stuff at me. Throw more bosses at me. Give me more loot, right? Like, Diablo was cool, but, like, I was waiting for that moment in Diablo 2, you break all the seals, and then, not even death can save you from me. I was, like, waiting for that moment of, like, holy shit, you know, we're getting serious on this, but it just never came, man. Like, fine.
Yeah. Well, this is the same thing too. Like Diablo, it's in 1, it was all his minions you fought, and then you fought him, and it was over, right? So you never like talked to him really. In 2, you kept just chasing a man and chasing his aftermath, and then you finally got to him and you took him down. But it was leading up because you killed Mephisto first, and then you killed him, and then Baal was still alive. So Diablo always felt like the last piece of the puzzle or one of the pieces. And now he was just evil incarnate, right? And it still kind of fell flat. I mean, I kept thinking, those are childbearing hips. Diablo could, you know, have some good kids because of him being a female. So he was way more menacing in the other games. The most menacing part about him, though, is I felt that Leia was still inside somewhere. Or so what I kept thinking, oh my gosh, what happened to Leia? He did this to Leia. That's like the most evil that came out of him is like, dude, you did that to Leia, man. She was innocent. I'm gonna kill you. That's where I got most of
See,
my
I
hatred
think
for
the
him.
most telling review I can say for the game was I enjoyed the gameplay so much, but the story so little that my thought wasn't, oh my god, Leia's soul's in there. It was, oh my god, my rare drop is in there. You just fucking kill him and move on to Nightmare.
Yeah, that's what happens after you beat the game on normal. So, guys, I'm going to go to my last point about the story. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go straight into the gameplay, which really, I mean, a video game, to me, those are the two parts, the gameplay and the story, right? And Diablo, the franchise, the gameplay has always been the more memorable part, but the story was really good in Diablo 2. So, in terms of writing and storytelling, good writers, good storytellers know the end from the beginning. The lore for Diablo has been deep, very deep. Ever since the manual of Game 1, it's been deep. But retconning, having different writers, and a gap of 12 years should provide a story that is memorable and hopefully unpredictable. But it wasn't. Diablo 3 conceptually is memorable, but the story delivery is laughable, especially with way too much being revealed at BlizzCon in the past. I think the biggest mistake that Blizzard ever made was releasing the artwork showing the feminine characteristics of Diablo. They have been so protective. Even Chris Metzen told me personally at BlizzCon, they don't reveal a lot of things, so they protect our experience, right? Protect that moment when we first play the game and realize, I was not expecting that. Oh my gosh, I'm on the edge of my seat. That was so cool. That happened maybe once or twice, but half of that playing Diablo 3. And that was like, I knew this was coming, but it was really brutal. Or wow, they killed off Cain in Act 1. I didn't expect that. You have to know the end from the beginning, man. And I don't think they did here. Conceptually, they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but especially with the retconning that happened, which wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like World of Warcraft where they changed whole race
I mean,
histories.
in their defense, it's 12 years, different writers. You know,
Exactly,
they have to,
exactly.
It's not going to be, you know, exactly the same or anything.
Well, but with 12 years, you would think, hey guys, people are expecting a lot out of the story because we've had this for a while. Let's create something they're not expecting and make it amazing. And it was, let's create something and reveal what it is, and then have the boss characters reveal everything when they're playing the game and say it's going to be amazing. You know? So, when it comes to storytelling, you have the best stories when the writer himself knows the end from the beginning and can craft that. It's an art, man. Telling a story is an art. And these really good stories that we get to participate in, that we get to watch, are so memorable. They don't have to be like super intricate. They can be simple, but can be told in such a beautiful way. So, Wiggin, any last thoughts on the story before we take a break and move on into gameplay?
I think we covered it, man.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate everybody tuning in to Shifting Gears. This show is live every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on this channel. If I'm not live for the week, I will tell everybody ahead of time. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We come back, we're going to talk about gameplay. Stay tuned. right, guys, welcome back to Shifting Gears. I am your host, Clutch, along with my good buddy, Wigan. We have been reviewing Diablo 3, talking about the story. Now we're going to move into gameplay. Now, I had the wizard perspective, but first off, Wigan, I'm going to let you take the floor here and talk about your experience as a barbarian.
I should have known better than playing a melee class in a Blizzard game. No, Barbarian was really fun. At first, it was exactly what I wanted. I was, cleaving down trash mobs left and right, whirlwinds, everything like that. From normal to hell. I was this badass barbarian. I didn't feel pigeonholed at any specs, anything like that. And I could pretty much do whatever I wanted. It was a lot of fun. And then I hit Inferno. And I ran into a problem that a lot of barbarians have been running into, in that you just get kicked in the testicles over and over again as a barbarian in Inferno. Like, you get there, and somebody hands you a letter, or like a memo that says, oh yeah, put on a shield, you're not allowed to do damage anymore. I hope you like stunning in groups. And you're going to have to farm Act 1 while your friends that have worse gear than you keep moving on for a while. Or like, oh, you're going to watch wizards with 5,000 health be able to solo Diablo while you're stuck in Act 1 farming Butcher,
Mm. Sorry, buddy.
It's okay. On one hand, it's okay, because Inferno should be hard. There should be a challenge to the end of the game, right? I like that it's difficult, but I don't like how it's difficult. And I feel like Blizzard kind of dropped the ball in their class design of Barbarian, because they set you up as a class that could be awesome badasses, throughout the game until you hit what I would call the real game, which is Inferno, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the end game. Then you're very, very pigeonholed. Like, you pretty much have to sword and board for groups, and that's kind of it's pretty annoying. But I mean, I guess if I knew that ahead of time, then I wouldn't be surprised. But they play Barbarian up so you can be this awesome, like DPS or Whirlwind, everything. And you're very pigeonholed into very specific abilities. Like, if you don't have the all-resist shout on, good luck. If you don't have 2 different defensive passives, good luck. And you have to farm up certain gear. And it's just very frustrating to be playing a class where your main role in a group is to stun things and tank them, but you're not really that good at tanking because you don't have very good passive mitigation, so you have to rely on your gear. And the only way to regen health is to get hit in the face and hope you have a random number generator proc on Revenge, which, if you don't know, Revenge is this ability you have. If you get hit, you have a 30% chance with the right rune to activate Revenge. And it's this move you can use that will give you life back based on how many things you hit around you, right? And it's spam if you keep getting hit. But sometimes, you get hit a shitload and it doesn't proc and you just die. And you're like, oh, well, that sucks. I just bad luck this time, So I feel like it's conceptually bad that you make a class that has to tank, and they have to do it by stunning, but in order to survive, they have to be hit, which they can't while they're stunning things, and it just seems weird. And a lot of people are saying that barbarians are very gear dependent, and that's true. And to be honest, I think barbarians are probably one of the best classes with the top end gear. Like, you're almost the only class that can just sit there and actually just tank, like fight things straight up. In Inferno, everything can kill anything so fast. You have to dodge things, you have to kite, you have to kite, you have to kite. If your gear's good enough on a barbarian, you can just sit there. There's a really good barbarian, Kriparian, who, like, if you watch his videos, he'll, like, pull an entire act, basically, and fight it all, because he outgears it so much, right? And even when he soloed Inferno Diablo, which is something that very few barbarians can do right now, he titled the video, Barbarian Outgears Diablo on Inferno, right? So it just sets you up in this sort of very frustrating and anti-fun kind of thing where you feel very pigeonholed into a certain spec, and it's not what everyone wants to do as a barbarian. And instead of being able to win with skill and like kiting and clever move use, you win because you have better gear. And sometimes you can't even get that gear yourself. You have to buy it on the auction house or have friends carry you to higher difficulty or to higher acts and things like that. So I won't say barbarians are underpowered or anything like that, but it's very frustrating to play a barbarian, and it's sad that it only gets there at the end of the game when it kind of matters, you know. So I don't know. That's my impression of the barbarian class. And I think if you look at like the BattleNet forums, for example, which never believe everything you say on everything you see on the BattleNet forums, God forbid. But
Yeah.
a lot of people are having that same impression, and the people that are being successful are still having that same impression. So,
Well, it's difficult from your perspective seeing other classes have a lot of success, even though you're putting in the same time. I can vouch for Wigan. He's one of the best video game players I know as an all-around player. To be struggling because its class mechanics can be difficult when you're especially seeing these demon hunters just plow through. I played a wizard, and overall, I love it. I always knew I was going to play the wizard ever since I played the game at BlizzCon back in 2010. The spells are fantastic. There's a great correlation of the different spells. Right now in Inferno, I use Slow Time with a rune that does 20% more damage, and I use Meteor with that 8-second burn down. The runes are simple enough to understand, but complex enough to think about which one to use, which is great. And the difficulty of Normal to Hell, it was an adequate to a very worthy challenge. Like, I felt, yeah, man, I beat it on Hell. Which felt awesome. And it felt that it was a worthy challenge. It wasn't like a pushover. It wasn't easy. It was something you had to work at and strategize and pick the right spells that you thought would work together. But Inferno is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to take months for us to get through it. But I don't want every run-through to feel like a waste of time when these drops are ridiculous. And I want to go further into this. And what Bashiok has said is the reason why drops feel lower, or the rate or the quality of items is lower, is because the auction house is part of that implementation system. It's factored in to the drop system. If it wasn't, then the economy would have been destroyed because everybody would have been getting medium, adequate to really good drops more often, and there's more stuff on the auction house, and the auction house would kind of cease its existence more or less. I mean, it totally would be there, but everybody would be, you know, like just rolling rich or trying to, and that kind of crushes the economy. I guess that's what he was trying to say, right? So inflation, if you will, of really good items. But if the auction house is broken most of the time or half the time, that leaves us with crappy drops all the time. And all of my items I've gotten from Blackrobe as a demon hunter, or a couple other people that are like, hey man, I'm a demon hunter and I can roll through this. I've been doing this for a while and I got some great items for him. Like, thank you very much, good sir. That went better than expected, logging on to Diablo 3. But I don't think I have used one item that has physically dropped for me, even with 5 stacks of Nephilim buff. And that gets tiresome, man. And I know it's supposed to be a struggle. I know it's supposed to be difficult. And I'm not complaining that, oh, it's too hard, or I should be like getting really high gear, or this should be more like WoW. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying that the fun factor is getting taken out pretty fast when I log in and try to do an Inferno run, and it's like nothing happens, really. I get gold, but I can't use that gold if the auction house doesn't work. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's a difficulty right now that I feel will be fixed, either with a more stable auction house or whatnot. But
at least you have gold.
Oh man!
So my account got hacked.
Well, yep.
Gold
That's what we're gonna get into right now.
Oh, we are. Okay. Are we going straight into that now, or you wanna do more on the gear? Because I kind of disagree a little bit about the gear.
Okay. We'll talk about gear, then crafting, and then the always DRM, and then we'll go into your account getting hacked.
Okay. I do have a lot equipped that I found personally, and I have a lot from the auction house as well. And I don't think the drops are that bad, to be honest. I think people are kind of exaggerating. If everybody can very easily gain access to the top-end gear, as soon as you get to Inferno, there's not going to be much longevity to the game. Like, there's only so much you can do, especially with no PvP in the game right now.
Yeah.
Now people come up and they'll complain saying that, oh, the legendary items are too bad compared to, like, blues and rares. And, yeah, it's really dumb that blues can be better than legendaries. Like, that's absolutely silly. Mm-hmm. But that was a big complaint in Diablo 2. People complained that Diablo 2 got very stale because people were all trying to farm the same legendary items. There wasn't as much difference between characters at the top end because everyone did the same build, went for the same items, you know, stuff like that. And so I think they made an actual effort to make it so you didn't have to get legendaries to have top end gear.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't disagree with that. I think there's something really exciting about like getting that really high roll rare item, you know, as opposed to knowing what you're getting with a legendary.
Well, I think with legendaries, they could implement that into the crafting system, especially if you like try to get a set and say, okay, crafter, let's augment these legendary items because this is a really, really, really low drop rate, and it could be used later. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, Tumba got like a couple legendaries his first run through on normal, right? And it's all like really low level gear, so you're not going to use it later on. I just feel that it would be cool if you got such a low level drop that you could use it in some way, even like to make a little trophy out of to put on your like blacksmith's, you know, wall or something. It's just, what are you gonna do? Just salvage it or sell it, and that.
Yeah, and stuff like that would be really cool. And there's definitely a lot they could add. I just don't like people complain about the drop rates and stuff like that, and it doesn't seem like that much of a problem to me yet. Okay. You know, I would. That's one of those things that I'm willing to give it a month, and if it's still, if blues are still like some of the most desirable things people are buying from the auction house, then it becomes a problem. But we don't even like nobody even knows what all. Well, I guess I'm sure it's been data mined, but nobody has all the best gear yet. Like nobody has all these great legendaries and set items, and they're replacing them with blues. Like that hasn't happened yet. It's annoying that it takes a long time to farm for stuff, but that's always what Diablo's always been like.
Yeah,
you stack ridiculous amounts of magic find in Diablo 2, and then go fucking spam bail runs, and it still takes a while to find items. Well, and no one's doing anything like that yet in Diablo 3.
Well, the one thing in Diablo 2 before the expansion, from what I can remember, is the only way to get good items was to continually just do boss runs. Where in Diablo 3, what Blizzard did is they added in those champions and the Nephilim buff, so it wasn't just boss runs you had to do, but you could find these random encounters that are actually like tougher than the bosses that can yield those drops. Yet, in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong here, is that the best items that I should be going for drop off the butcher anyway. So it's almost counterintuitive for Act 1, at least at the portion I'm at right now. I mean, I don't know, man. Listen, we're all still learning, right? It's only 2 weeks into the game. These are just initial, like, need to let off some steam of what's going on here. And I feel more for melee characters right now, and I think Blizzard has stated, like, there's some damage mitigation we need to shift here and stuff. But yeah, it's going to be hard. Blizzard said it's going to be hard, and they said you're going to die, and you need to come up with different strategies and stuff. But when you implement an auction house into the drop rate system and the auction house doesn't work, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to work. And now when that real money auction house comes in, man, I don't know. We're like, well, I could, you know, run Inferno for about 5 times and use a day, or I could buy this for $50. Tempting. I wonder what to do.
Be a lot cheaper than that for probably pretty good stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it's going to be. We'll see what it's going to be. I mean, because we kind of make up that economy, right? I don't know if Blizzard's going to set any standard prices.
Well, there are standard prices for commodities. At least there were when the commodity auction house actually worked.
Okay.
And there's in Diablo 2, there's a big community that will sell items and things like that. And
Sixin, who's a resident expert here, says that Blizzard won't set any prices. The auction house is completely player driven.
They won't, but there's the community, especially from Diablo 2, with different websites that sell items, have standardized very low prices for very good items in Diablo 2, and I imagine that kind of thing will move over into Diablo 3. I don't think items will be very expensive at all.
Okay. We'll see what happens and when it's implemented. Speaking of real money here, that's why we have to have the always-on DRM. Guys, people can't play this game without the internet. And that sucks for people that have to serve on ships or places on the ocean that want to play this, single-player-wise. I thought maybe it'd be cool if you could create a character that you could play offline that would have no access to any of the auction houses unless you pressed a button, that character was forever now an online character, right? And you could never go back. That way, you could bypass the always-on DRM to just play the game and not have access to the auction house. I guess that wasn't going to be a viable option. So, to me, having an always-on DRM is like having a car alarm that only works when your car's on. Lag, hardcore mode. Two things that don't go together very well, right? I don't even know if I'm going to even touch hardcore, man. I don't even know. And accounts still get hacked. Wigan, floor is yours. What happened?
Well, I was doing my my butcher farming because I'm a barbarian, which means I am not allowed to step into Act 2 for very long in Inferno. So I'm doing 5-stack butcher runs and go to sleep for about an hour, get back up, and check my my character and to check the auction house. And the auction house is down, which, you know, happens quite a lot. And all my gold is is gone. I'm like, okay. But all my items are there, for the record, which is thank you. I wasn't actually that mad about this because all my items were there, right? If my character got, like, a lot of people that got hacked, their characters were gone, their characters were naked, all their items were gone, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
My items were still there, and it was kind of weird because I had like around 1 million gold at that point on my character, and I had items that were worth more than that were there. So I guess the hackers just didn't know what they were looking for or whatever. But
They didn't know yet.
so, you know, initially I was like, maybe it's an auction house thing. Your gold's tied to the auction house is down, whatever. I won't freak out. I'll send in a ticket. Diablo or Blizzard support's down. I'm like, fuck. So, you know, I wait a couple hours, Blizzard support comes up, send in the ticket. They get back to me pretty quickly, you know, very professional. Yeah, we confirmed your account's hacked. Here's your options. We can roll your account back to the last time we had a server state save, I guess is how they do it. Or, you know, we can just do nothing. I'm like, well, here's the one gripe I have. They couldn't tell me when they would roll it back to. They could give me some stats, like, okay, this is how much gold you had on your character, and this is what level it was. Like, okay, I know it's 60. It's been 60 for a week. Or, well, not a week, but it's been 60 for, like, 3-4 days. But it's not as much gold as I had, you know. And I didn't want to do it because I would have lost like 2 or 3 characters I had started, like including a hardcore character, and I would have lost some of my items that I had bought that were worth more than the gold that I had on the character at the time. So I ended up not doing it, and I thought it was kind of weird that they couldn't give me any more information.
Okay.
About like when they would roll it back, but they got back to me quickly, and I'm willing to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt on that.
Now, you have an authenticator, right?
I do have an authenticator.
Do you use it just so it's once a week, or do you use it every day?
I had it set to once a week before that, and now it's every time I log in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because their statement came out that said, no account that has an authenticator has been hacked.
Yeah, but I mean, I know people who got hacked that have authenticators, so...
Yeah.
Like, at least, unless they're lying about it, but you know.
Okay.
So, and then of course there was that thing about people stealing session IDs and then logging in, getting to your character without actually having to get through the login, stuff like that. So who knows? But you know, at the beginning of the at the beginning of any game, especially an always online game, there's going to be problems. There's going to be servers down. There's going to be security issues and shit. So it doesn't bother me too much. It sucks now that I can't buy shit on the auction house. I have no fucking gold to farm it all back. But
yeah,
I don't know. That's but
first 2
apparently
weeks.
For quite a lot of people.
Yeah,
which is sad, you know? And a lot of people had it a lot worse. They got all their shit deleted or just, you know.
Man,
and for the record, everybody, I have the app on the phone. I don't have the physical one.
I have both. I changed over to that app on the phone so I could have it with me when I go to different tournaments and stuff. And be like, I don't have my authenticator. I can't play on my account. Oh no, what do? I just have it on my phone. Okay, so guys, we're going to move into the verdict here. We're going to go into the future predictions of expansions, and then it's going to be open phones. We're going to go through this quickly. First off, I give it an 8 out of 10. All right? We're only 2 weeks in, and with a history of Diablo, Blizzard will continually make adjustments to make it better like they do with all their games. I give it an 8 out of 10 because graphically and gameplay-wise, it's great. It's the dungeon crawler, honestly. I feel the wizard is a fantastic class. The other classes are great to work with. The spells are great to watch, great to feel, great to hear, and I really enjoy playing the game. Story was conceptually amazing, delivery-wise was crap, and I feel that tweaking needs to happen gameplay-wise in Inferno, but not much. It's supposed to be very, very hard, and I appreciate that with Blizzard not trying to give us a fairyland and a bunch of rainbows and unicorns in Inferno. It's supposed to be very, very, very tough. So I appreciate that. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Wigan, verdict.
You know, it depends on how much you weight the story, right? The gameplay I've really enjoyed, especially the normal through hell, the co-op. It's fun. It's a blast. I can't think of another dungeon crawler that I enjoy as much as the Diablo series, and the gameplay itself is still fun. And I really like. Some people have complained about. I really like how the bosses are sort of. They have gimmicks to them. I enjoy that. I think it's cool that you have to dodge, and the champion picks that you have to dodge things and stuff like that. I'm glad they added that kind of stuff in. The story was just god awful. It was fucking terrible. But I don't play dungeon crawlers for the story. It's like playing Dynasty Warriors for the story or something. They're just kill hordes of things. So 7.5.
Okay.
So 7 because Inferno. Because they have, I don't think they
7 for a melee
Inferno
character.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they play tested Inferno enough yet. And they'll get there eventually, but for now, 7.
Yeah. Well, nobody at Blizzard ever beat Inferno. So, do you feel that the StarCraft 2 story is better than Diablo 3 delivery-wise?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think the StarCraft story was all that great either.
Mm-hmm.
But at least the characters were memorable. You know?
Yeah, Matt Horner. Matt Horner is one of the coolest characters.
Yeah, Matt Horner was cool. There were a lot of really cool characters, and just the storyline in general of StarCraft was all right. I mean, there were holes and things like that, and like Phineas is mentioning, there were some plot holes, but that doesn't matter if it's memorable, right? Diablo 3 could have a completely airtight story, but if it isn't memorable, I mean, okay, you know what? Let me put this a different way.
Okay.
It's 100 times better. If I think of it this way, right? Deckard Cain was like my favorite character in Diablo 2, and I didn't care when he died in Diablo 3. Diablo 3's story is fucking terrible.
Wow. Well, when you put it that way, I understand your 7. Yeah, going back and thinking about it, it's like, wow, I actually like the StarCraft 2 storyline better than Diablo 3. I thought it was better done. Still super cliche, and some of the moments was like, what? But it was way better delivered than Diablo 3, which is kind of unfortunate because I feel there's a lot more lore history, and the lore history is more important in Diablo compared to StarCraft 2, where the prominent characters are more important than the lore history, except when it comes to the Xel'Naga, right? So, Blizzard, please learn from your mistakes, man. Hire me! I'll write better stories. I can do it!
Hire that guy from the BattleNet forums.
Yeah.
For the expansions.
You saw somebody that was able to do the better replay, connect from replays for StarCraft 2. Anyways. Guys, future theories, and then we're doing open phones, and we want to hear from anybody that wants to comment on their experience with Diablo 3. First off, the Black Soulstone falls to somewhere. Mathiel went crazy. That's the Angel of Wisdom that left this gap, which is not even highlighted in any of the lore until it's in the game that he's gone and there's this gap filled, right? But he's the Angel of Wisdom. The Soulstone, or the World Stone, went missing first. He's like, where's the World Stone? Where did it go? We need that. That is like the apex of all things that are important. And then they finally find it, and it gets destroyed. And he's like, the World Stone is destroyed. I am going to leave heaven now. And he just went nuts, okay? So, with Wisdom gone, that's who Tyrael took over. I could totally see him showing up like, we must crush everybody. I mean, this is all wrong, or something like that, and that's your final boss, okay? The Templar are making weapons to kill angels. This could come into play against Malthael. Like, how do we destroy an angel? The Templar, no! And then you go with the Templar, and he shows up and he says, all you have to say is the will of a Templar is stronger and you're able to kill angels or something like that. I would love to see follower quests. Like, you get to see the end of their story. You go to Kingsport and you help the scoundrel. You go help Ariana wherever she's from or go or whatever with the whole prophet and thing like that, or find out who he is, or if it was that angel that died, they gave her the transcript, or just have closure there. And then I brought up the Templar, you know, going to his order and finding out the truth and whatnot. I think that'd be really cool. Shen and his jewel, Covetous Shen, great character. And also, Covetous Shen gives the greatest line about Leia's soul. You guys should check out in the game. He's like, what do you think about Leia's soul? And your character says Leia is no more. He's like, really? You don't think she's strong enough? What if... And then he goes, I better not tell you more. And it's like, who is this guy? Is he a god? Is he... Yeah, there's something cool and mysterious about him. And he talks about that jewel that he's trying to find, so that could be in the expansion. Adria is MIA. Kain could possibly come back, spirit form. We don't know exactly where mortals go as spirits. So he could become the aspect of justice or wisdom or something. And maybe he could be involved in trying to rescue Leia's soul. The heroes from Diablo 2, we need to have closure on them. We have to. If not, it's a complete disservice to the heroes in Diablo 2 that you got to play, because we have closure on all the heroes from Diablo 1. It'd be kind of cool. The only one that you will hear about in the game is you actually meet a necromancer in Act 2 who is trained under the necromancer from Diablo 2 and talks about who he did, or who he was and how he defeated Diablo 2. So I'd like to see those heroes. And also Westmarch, where we saw the king that didn't send his armies. I think that would be an interesting location to go to. And Yura, which is in one of the books, and hopefully Zale will be there. He's one of the coolest characters from the books and is in the same timeline as Diablo 3. I mean, he's still alive to fit there. So I think that bringing on writers like Richard A. Knack or anybody else that helped to write those books, I mean, yeah, guys, this isn't the same class as George R.R. Martin. We know that. But these writers create these worlds that we feel invested in. I was totally more invested in the books than I was playing Diablo 3, and there is something wrong with that. The game story should have more emotional investment. That should be the bread and butter of the entire franchise, not the books. Wigan, anything to add before we open phones?
I don't know why we're speculating, man. As soon as the expansion comes out, the first bad guy we meet is going to tell us exactly what's going on.
That is right, good sir. I hope that actually it is wrong, that they learned their lesson.
No, I think Phidias mentioned something kind of cool. Maybe the leader of the Templars is the Paladin from Diablo 2, for example. Something like that. I hope they do tie-ins like that.
Man!
That would be incredibly cool. So I hope they wise up on stuff like that and do tie-ins, make things interesting like that.
Well played. Well played.
I don't know. I wasn't invested enough in the story to really care about where it goes next. I just want to know what new things I get to kill.
Yeah, and who the bad guy's going to be. I think Malthael will be one of them. All right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, phones are open. You can call in at JG Clutch. You don't have to add me if you... I mean, you don't have to. It's easier if you just call and I take your call. People seem to add me all the time, so phones are now open. Please call in to give us your opinion on your experience with Diablo 3 here. Phidias, that is true. The prophecy is written in the Book of Cain. And we're going to go first call here with... Whoa, lost Wigan. Hold on. Sorry, Wigan.
You put me on hold, you son of a...
It's that good old Skype.
How dare you, sir?
I know.
Sorry.
Terrible.
Oh, you got me?
Hello.
Tempo, you are live.
Pretty sure that's not tempo, but that's okay.
Tempo, you are live.
There we go. That's fine.
Do both,
guys,
man. You gotta start with the song title. Go.
All I do is win.
There we go. Go.
So, Wigan, first off, thanks for having me on the show, Wigan Clutch. But I gotta say, Wigan, real quick, I got a new ramen recipe. It's very simple.
Oh, yeah?
You just throw a slice of white American cheese in the ramen, and it's amazing. Just saying.
I'll try.
First of all, great insight on the game tonight, I think, fellas. Really good stuff. There's some things I'm a little heated about, and I don't think it's really what everybody else is heated about. First of all, Blizzard has a right as a company to protect its game. So if they want it to be always on DRM, that's their prerogative. I feel for the people that can't get an authenticator because, as far as I know, and I've been asking everybody, I've been trying to research this. Nobody that has an authenticator that is on every day has been hacked that I am aware of. There was an article done, I think Gaming Blend, and they rescinded the article because they found out it wasn't true. The person that came forward, the only person that's been hacked with an authenticator was a phone-in type deal, and the phone-in I don't think works well for Diablo. So get your authenticator, make sure it works every day.
That is
I feel
really
like
good advice.
Yeah, it's so worth it. I feel like the game's in beta, and this is what pisses me off. It's not the authentication, it's not the no offline mode, which they should have. I feel like it's in beta, and it's due to the consumers. They know that they can go ahead and run a beta as an alpha and open up the whole game as a beta because the consumers are still going to buy it. I mean, that's the bottom line, and that's how I feel like they've acted with this because there's just too many things gone wrong for a AAA rated game. I don't mind that the gold auction house isn't ready yet, or excuse me, the real money, but the gold should be running flawlessly. That's a little ridiculous. So, you're paying a lot of money for these games, and you're investing hours of your life into it. And I don't think really that. Let's put it this way: I think the consumer deserves more attention. That's all there is to it. Today, how many hours of patching problems did we have? Was it 10 hours today? And we're 2 weeks in, so I got into it a little bit with one of the IGN author that did the review for the game.
They gave it a 9?
Yeah, they gave it a 9.5. We got into a little bit of a back and forth on Twitter, and I said you left a gaping hole in your review because you didn't take into account the server downtime. And he said, well, they straightened that out in a few days. I said, what about today? And he says, well, I guess we're at an impasse. And then I dropped off a little article for him that was done in Kotaku that was really good because it was constructive about what they failed on. And, Blizzard pointing the finger a little bit.
Did you say Kotaku and good in the same sentence?
I did.
Okay.
Actually, this is a really good. It was a really good article. It was really well done. And I think what it came down to was the fact that it was thought out to where, Blizzard was pointing little fingers a little bit like, hey, if you have file sharing software on your computer, that could be. But no, you know what? You shouldn't have. You bought the game. You should be able to run your PC with the programs you want to run on it, be it file sharing or whatever. Bottom line. So there was a lot of stuff in that regard. And then the last thing was this Deckard. Like, been waiting 10, 12 years, whatever it is, and Deckard goes out like that? Really? Really? Like, the story was booty enough, and then you're just gonna do Deckard like that? Like, I want him. He should have gone out or become something. They need to. I don't know. Who decides to put 5 demons? Who in chat? Put yourself in the game. Who thinks it's a good idea? Raise your hand. Let's put 5 demons all in the same spot. All right, forget that for a second. Hey, look, here comes Leia's mother out of nowhere. Let's just blindly trust her. Let's just trust her because she hasn't been around forever, and everybody refers to her as a witch. That's fine. Like, are you kidding? The story is an insult to even basic intelligence of Wigan. I understand where you're coming from with the I don't care, I just want to kill stuff, but there are people that are invested in the lore and invested in the story, and it's a disservice to them. I feel like they could have done a way better job with the story. Like you said, the guy that did the forum post wrote a way better story in 10 minutes. That's my soapbox. I'm done. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for the opportunity to call in, and, Game of Thrones forever.
Well,
so many banelings.
A good point, though, right? Like, and that's part of the reason that I mentioned that I didn't care that much about the story. I should care about the story. I fucking love Diablo 2. And I loved the story in Diablo 2. And it's sad that I don't care about the story because they didn't do anything that was compelling. And even if the story is kind of bad, if you have compelling enough characters, it'll still be memorable. Like Mass Effect 3. The story was kind of bad at the end.
Kinda.
But everyone loved the characters so much that it's so memorable. Everyone knows, everyone that played that game knows exactly. I don't have those feelings about Diablo 3, and it really is a shame.
Yeah, I think Tuma just left the call. I think that's everything you wanted to say. So thanks, Tuma, for the call, man. You guys can follow Tuma at Tuma SC. Great guy. Been involved in the esports scene for a little bit now. Taking another call here. Adding 6 in 1 second.
All right.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, man.
Hey, how you
Welcome
doing?
to the show.
So, yes, I wanted to say thank you. I really enjoyed the show.
Thank you, sir.
man.
You do great work. You guys can watch 6 in on the Diablo Daily.
Yes, thank you guys. I do the Diablo daily. I mean, I almost wish I talked to you about this like a couple hours earlier, because literally there is stuff that I want to comment on everything you guys said, but I'm I'm not going to do that. I'll try and keep it to some cool stuff.
Okay.
Just like the future of the lore and the expansions. That's what I'll comment on.
Okay.
I know you guys already talked about Malthael and Adria because the Black Soulstone fell, so obviously there's probably going to be something there. The game ends with that little cliffhanger material being becoming the Angel of Wisdom. Certainly think that there's going to be something there, although I think Wigan had an awesome idea. I really hope that Blizzard does have Tyrael become the actual, he returns as the Angel of Justice and have Cain become the Angel of Wisdom. I think that'd be epic. But anyway, I wanted to comment on the fact that, yes, there's going to be 2 expansions. That's what Blizzard's planning. And what you guys didn't actually mention were that Asmodan, the Lord of Sin, has 7 lieutenants. So, being the Lord of Sin, he's got 7 lieutenants of hell.
And we took
and each
down
of them,
Gluttony and Lust, right?
Exactly. So that leaves still 5 more. And that's kind of what I think the last 2 expansions will be about. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the... obviously the first one will probably be Yura and Adria, or Malthael and Adria in Yura. Yura is like the Pandemonium Fortress, just for heaven. And then I think the last one is when we'll kind of return to hell and finish slaying the last 5 lieutenants of Asmodan. And that's just kind of my 2 cents.
Makes sense, man, because I was thinking, wow, I got to fight 7 bosses for Asmodan. This is going to be a long act. And then it was just 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interessante, my friend. I could see that happening. It's kind of tough to introduce new characters to that. Well, we already know Baal existed for the Lord of Destruction, right? So he's a very prominent character. So I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but is there anything that you personally would like to see happen in the expansions?
I mean, I'm really just because of from the Book of Cain. So I know that you've read this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So like the prophecy that Deckard Cain's always talking about, the very last line of it says that death. And I don't have the actual thing sitting in front of me, but I know that it says something along the lines of death overtakes wisdom, or something along those lines. So that's kind of why we know Malthael's coming back.
Yeah.
And in his picture from the era, it was either BlizzCon or the Book of Cain, he actually looks like the Grim Reaper. Mm-hmm. So just by going from that actual passage from the Book of Cain, and yes, I called it a passage. It's pretty much like the Bible of Diablo.
Yeah.
So if we go by that, he actually would be kind of like the Angel of Death. And I'm really just curious as to how Blizzard wants to portray that. I mean, I've almost got my mind set on the fact that that's what's going to be happening in the expansion.
Mm-hmm. Well, he uses scythes, which...
Exactly.
I mean, everything that... Artistically, they make a choice with every character. Like I brought up the Black Soulstone, they make a choice for every second in these cinematics because it costs so much money to make. And you have to pay attention to those seconds and see how much they can fit with the imagery in those seconds and how much more you can get out of it. Because I got a lot more out of the Black Soulstone cinematic the more I watched it.
Oh, yeah, certainly. And actually, I was listening to you talking about how you kind of realized that he was actually talking to Diablo just through his wording, because I mean he does say our brethren. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't know, man. Actually, I don't even remember if I said this. It's only been 5 seconds. My memory is just killing me right now. He actually looks like the Grim Reaper, which would be the Angel of Death. Well, that was kind of like my 2 cents on that. And then obviously, the actual Black Soulstone falls from heaven. So, and that's like the piece of Leia. Diablo falls from the heavens, and it's actually the Black Soulstone that's there in the last cinematic. So that's kind of why I think Adria ties in, and perhaps that's how they're able to tie in Belial's Lord's deadly lieutenants, just because Adria now kind of represents Diablo, so maybe that's how they can introduce those new characters. I don't really know. This is just kind of my speculation. I don't know. I wanted to talk about this because that little passage from the Book of Cain really tied up my speculation in a nice little bow. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents for the expansions. And then obviously probably a new class or 2.
Yeah, well, thank goodness we actually have the prophecy written down, not just like in Star Wars, like the prophecy, and they never say what the prophecy is in any of the prequel movies, man. It's just that's another infuriating part, because in Episode 3 I kept thinking, now they're going to say what the prophecy is, right? They're going to say what it is. It's like, no, it's just one that will bring balance to the Force. That's it?
Yeah,
that's all it is? So, but it's true, and that prophecy starts with wisdom, or justice shall fall upon men, or something like that, paraphrasing, and that's what Tyrael was. Justice shall fall from the heavens, and and fall on men. So I thought that the wording was kind of cool, and then when it actually happened, I went, oh, it was Tyrael. That's interesting. But anything else, Sixen, before we have to let you go and take another call?
Yeah, I'm not trying to take up too much time. Sorry, guys. The last thing was just that I guess I'll throw this out there. I know you guys were talking about legendary items in Inferno mode, and I'm sure you guys probably saw the game design update, but I definitely wanted to highlight this, that Blizzard is going to be buffing legendary items like completely outright come the 1.1 PvP patch. So aside from legendary items being buffed, PvP is coming to 1.1. That's, I don't know, it's going to be huge, and I definitely want to talk to you about that at some point in time, because I think, like I said, this will just be completely huge for the community. So
yeah, man. Casting Diablo. Ooh, yeah. That's honestly the story, and PvP is the thing I was most excited for. Now I'm going to ask you a question real quick. Is the gear that we use right now in PvE, is that going to transfer over to PvP? Is that the gear that we're going to use and those stats are going to transfer over? Or is it going to be different? Okay.
So yes, the actual items we'll be using will be completely the same, but the stats for the skills, they're going to have two different sets of information, so they'll be able to tweak things for PvP without actually having to change things for PvE. So they'll be able to balance that, which is perfect. Okay,
because I've always people have brought up the concern of, well, people can just buy the best gear and therefore be the best at PvP. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that certainly is a pretty good issue, and I mean I've seen that brought up as well. But you also have to keep in mind that, I mean, just because you've got great gear doesn't mean that your build is good. You might have a crappy passive setup. I still think that having a good skill, like if you put me up against somebody and we have equal gear level, I still think that I'll probably win just because maybe I know more. I mean, I'm not tooting my horn or anything, but I'm just saying, like, if they just purchase everything off the auction house, the chances of them actually knowing all the intricacies of their character are, slim to none.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes you just have to know how to use that wildfire, Tyrion. That's right. That's right. Tactics, indeed. Wigan, anything you wanted to ask Sixen while we have him?
Ask him.
He's the man. He's the Kane.
I mean.
Of our generation.
I wish I had more about the story to talk about. I guess it's not really a question, but I'm really glad that they did leave a lot of things open as far as characters. Like Imperius, for example. Everybody thought we would end up fighting him, and he was injured. He has basically cracks in his armor that they took, like you said in the cinematic, they took painstaking amounts to show, right? So I'm assuming that he'll have a pretty big role in the expansion of the story. Maybe we do end up fighting him eventually. Yeah, I didn't know that the gear would transfer over in PvP, and I'm actually kind of excited about that because it gives me more of a reason to keep gearing my barbarian instead of just rolling a character.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit excited about that actually. I was worried like a lot of people have mentioned, with the real money auction house, like you said, if you could buy basically like buying skill, right?
Yeah.
But there's enough that they put into that game. I think there's enough depth in the game as far as using your skills right, your build right, and dodging things and things like that, that you can differentiate yourself by skill. That won't really be a problem. So is there a timetable for when that patch is coming out?
Just within a couple of months. Jay Wilson said that if it came out by the end of the year, he would be disappointed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm super excited. That's what I wanted from day one as PvP. So that was my favorite thing in Diablo 2. I was a scumbag. I was a PKer on hardcore. so I'm really excited for PvP.
Yeah, Sixen, thanks so much for calling in, man. Thanks for all the hard work you do for the Diablo community. Would you like to plug your show real quick?
Yeah, sure, if you don't mind. I mean,
sure,
I do the Diablo daily on my channel, just twitch.tv/Sixen. I do it Mondays. Right now it's Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. And actually I'm starting up this new show Fridays. It's going to be like a podcast style thing, State of Sanctuary. So, I mean, I'd be more than happy to have you on sometime, Clutch. Wigan.
Sure, man.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll keep in touch with you guys over the next, I don't even know, for over the next relatively near future.
All right, dude. Sounds good. Thanks so much for your hard work.
Yeah, thanks
guys. Thanks for having me. Take it easy.
All right, take another call here.
Zigger saying the only appealing characters are the crazed hermit in New York.
All right, we have a Barbara Smith. You are on Shifting Gears. Hello.
Good evening, Clutch.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Excellent. Anyway, I play Demon Hunter. I smoke screen and everything. Inferno's still really hard. I have over 100 hours played, and I have some issues with the game that aren't the maintenance, like sort of game setup things.
Okay.
User interface, I think they did a terrible job with.
Really?
Most of their players, well, not entirely. Just some of the things they have that. Some things they have in WoW or StarCraft or League of Legends, the games a lot of their players are coming from, they don't also have in Diablo. For example, there's no tiny windows for chatting with people when you're in the lobby screen, like you would have in StarCraft. If I'm chatting with my friends, it would be very convenient. You can't resize the chat window anywhere. I think it shows 3 lines. So if you salvage 3 or 4 items, everything's gone. And you can scroll up, but it's incredibly inconvenient. And so keeping contact with people is difficult. The friends list, I have no idea how it's organized. It's like alphabetical by friends in games, then alphabetical by friends, then alphabetical by like the not real ID friends, the battle tag friends.
One time somebody joined my game. I was like, "How did you join my game? Don't hack my stuff." And it was actually a friend of mine that I knew. I didn't associate his character name to his Battle.net name, and I didn't see it on there, and I was looking, and it wasn't there, and then he's like, "Hey, this is so-and-so." And I went, "Oh, I know this guy in real life. Why am I freaking out?" Like, 'cause I was thinking of Wiggins Gold.
I never thought that somebody would make me realize that StarCraft 2 has a better chat system than any other game. That's actually...
I know, it's terrible. And they added a general channel now that you automatically join. And everyone leaves it automatically, but it like spams you while you're in games and stuff. And it's a terrible approach to a chat system. The other thing is the action bar they put in... the cooldowns are terrible. They just have sort of the shadowing clock that moves around. When in League of Legends or with a lot of World of Warcraft mods, you can have it give you a number, like the number of seconds or number of minutes until your cooldown's up again, which is a lot easier to read. If you're a wizard and you pop Archon, does it have a minute left? Does it have 50 seconds left? I don't know, and maybe that information's useful.
Yeah, especially at the center of your screen, right? Which we'd have in those add-ons instead of down below when you're like checking back and forth when you're whatever you're targeting. But if you have it at the center of your screen, from what I can remember playing World of Warcraft and other MMOs, is it was just way easier to do that. But you bring up some good points. But we can't have any add-ons in this game. It breaks it breaks the user agreement or the contract, or I forgot the exact name for it, because it's always on DRM, and that can be considered hacking.
Well,
and this wasn't that the case for WoW, though, too? Even though it just became a thing that everyone did anyway.
No, they built it so you could do it in WoW, I believe. They set it up for everyone.
Oh, okay.
Also, there's no buff timers, which would be useful, too. Some things don't even have buffs. Like, the Wizard Enchant Weapon doesn't give you a buff anywhere on your bar. There's no way to keep track of it. If you're a demon and you make a pet, I think they last till death, but there's no icon for that either. And, I think the only other big problem with that is you can drag abilities off your bar if you have elective mode set up, which is really easy to do when you're clicking all over the screen, and then your Nephilim Valor buff is gone.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a couple times. And that
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, God, it's so infuriating.
It's only if you have elective mode selected. It can't happen at all if you don't.
Which is pretty much you're going to select that once you bash like hell. I mean, that's what I did. I just kept it until... I think I kept it until Nightmare, then after Nightmare I was like, alright, elective time. That sucks, and there's no way to, like, lock it. I don't think. There's not a lock button.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
So these are all just basic things that are in other games, even in some of their own other games, which are just giving it a very unpolished look.
Well, you can turn off, somebody just said in chat that you can turn off elective mode and it'll lock, I guess, but you would still have a lock function, I would think.
Someone's also asking why I click. I do use hotkeys, but when I'm clicking to kite, sometimes I still hit them.
I think when I did it, I was moving down, like, on the screen, and I accidentally clicked it and dragged it off. I was like, oh, fuck, and lost 5 stacks.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, I know the polishing thing, too. It's like, guys, you announced this game in 2008. How much, like, I would want to sit there and ask, what was the development for Act 1? How long did it take? Act 2, how long did it take? I'd like to sit with them, and obviously I wouldn't want them to tell me all the secrets to kind of keep some personal or NDA things as company, secrets. That's fine, but I think sometimes that curtain is too thick of what happens behind a game that's being developed, especially when the hype train is going for so long. Then it comes out, and now I like what they did with the beta changes from what they had before to when they changed it to, okay, I mean, you had the elective mode, and you had kind of the set mode. The potions were always in that one box, and they took away that jar of whatever and whatever else they had in the inventory. Just it felt cleaner, right? That happened. Maybe that hindered the polishing of it. Perhaps they have it like really polished, and they made that last second decision of, you know what, guys, this isn't working. Let's change it. But still, it shouldn't be an excuse, right? So I never even thought of any of those issues because I was just too busy dying in Inferno to even chat with my friends or try to change my stats. So thank you for bringing those up. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah. On that same note, one thing that bothers me just way more than it possibly should is that of all the hotkeys I can't change left click and right click. And as much StarCraft and League of Legends as I play, it like just completely mentally messes with me to have to go back and forth between left clicking to move and right clicking to move.
Mm-hmm.
I just, like, of all the things, you let me change every other hotkey that I can think of. Let me change that, please. Why is it grayed out?
All right, we have Jim on Shifting Gears. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me on.
Problem.
I'm doing good. So I want to feel Wiggins' pain because I play a Barbarian too. I actually finally finished Act 2 today, but it's not that I think Inferno is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I think certain packs do way too much damage. It's the spikiness of the damage that's just unbelievable.
When you have like Desecrate, Mortar,
Yeah,
Teleport,
it's
and
like
Walling.
you stand and Desecrate for 1 second. I have 700 resist to all. I stand and Desecrate for 1 second, and my health bar's gone.
You have
Yeah, and
700
it's just
resist.
so
Wow.
frustrating when, like, especially if you're playing a barb, you can't really kill things very fast on Inferno if you're rocking a shield most of the time, unless you have like Wrath up. It's so frustrating that there's just so much is taken out of your hands sometimes, just randomly, if they happen to have the right things. Like, say they have, like, God forbid, Frozen Jailer, Desecrator, Arcane Enchant. It's like the worst thing I can think of. You could be fine 90% of the time, then Wrath falls off so you can be CC'd, and then suddenly
you're dead.
everything just lines up and you get jailed onto Frozen and everything explodes. You're just dead instantly. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, so it,
and then
I think
then you res and they reset.
you reset by the time you get back. Or you're relying on Wrath of the Berserker, so you have to wait for the cooldown to come back before you can fight him again or something. And it's just, if there was one thing I would say they need to look at and adjust in Inferno, is less of the stuff that's out of the player's hands. It should be difficult, but you should be able to do something about it instead of just getting dicked over by a random number generator.
Another thing I want to complain about for the Barb is like any ability that uses Fury is completely useless.
It's terrible. Nobody uses it.
They're all garbage, and I don't understand that because how did they test that? It can't be that every ability that you build up Fury so you can use abilities. That's the idea behind the class, right? But if the abilities don't do any damage, there's no point in using them.
Yeah, I think at some point they kind of lost their direction with the design of the Barbarian, because you don't build Fury to use it. You build Fury to get that 25% damage bonus when it's maxed with the passive.
If you can even use the passive.
Yeah, if you can fit it in your build, right? So I definitely think at some point they sort of lost direction with that class, basically because of Inferno. You don't get to see as much of the potential of the class with the different Fury spenders and things like that. Now, with the PvP patch coming out, I think you'll see Fury spenders in PvP, for example. Like, there's no reason that a Stagger or a Hammer of the Ancients for burst damage or something like that wouldn't be useful. I feel like that'll be useful then. It's just unfortunate that all we have to look at, basically, as far as balance goes, is Inferno, and you don't get to use half your skills in Inferno. But now barbarians aren't the only people that are dicked over like that. Everybody's kind of pigeonholed right now.
It's mostly. I think they made a big mistake with melee classes and the way to damage skills for them, because I know some monks that are having the exact same amount of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play
It's
with some
definitely
monks.
a little bit more punishing for melee class because you have to sit there and fight things. You can't just kite, which is how demon hunters and wizards are doing so well in Inferno right now. It seems
Kite, die, kite and die, teleport, kite, die, kite, die, kite, die. Get a drop. Hey, it's
Let's
level
die.
57 gear. All right.
Yeah.
And Pallyways
I know.
is saying you can kite. Yeah, you can kite. It's just like way worse than everyone else is kiting, so it's just like frustrating. And you're obviously not meant to do that. Axe throw and sprint builds are so gay. Like,
I tried them out. I tried corpse explosion, all that nonsense. It does no damage. It's not
like,
worth
oh,
it.
let me just be a really gimped demon hunter for a little while.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thanks a lot for your call, man. All
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
right.
Thank you
take
for
care.
feeling my pain so far.
All right,
And also
peace out,
those-
guys.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you, man. And Belsha brings up a really good point that if you do have amazing gear, Barbarian is really good. Like, you become that class that can sit there and fight things that no one else can. It's just frustrating that you can't do it yourself, really, in a reasonable time frame compared to other classes.
All right, guys, still taking calls. JG Clutch is the Skype name here. All I gotta do is just call in. A couple people have called in that I can't call back because they're not on contact list. Sorry, that's how Skype works. But feel free to call. We'll take a couple more calls here before we sign off. Going a little bit late tonight, but that's okay. We talked a lot about a game we have been waiting for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy having to like do everything here on my little corner of taking calls and stuff. I don't need a bigger monitor, but like I'm so glad I got a second monitor, man. It just I had my like 40-inch TV and one monitor, and it was so I had to keep turning to do stuff. And when I bought another monitor, it's like, oh, it's so much easier. That's how the pros do it. But so far, oh, David is calling in here.
Hey.
David Watson, you're on Shifting Gears. Hello.
Hey, I was wondering if you thought it would be possible for Blizzard to change the story, like, retroactively. Like, in expansions, change what they already made.
Like a dreamlike sequence, or you could go back and change things? Like, how would you deliver that?
You mean like
possibility?
hypothetically, the expansion comes out, and then if you played the game again, the story would be different?
Yes.
Oh.
That's like, what other games have done that? I think there's been a couple games that have done something like that, but that's a tough thing to actually try to do, because people are going to be mad no matter what if you try something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel that